She screamed, "Stop her. She's stealing my car." Right in the middle of the grocery store parking lot. Everyone turned. Phones came out. And there I was. Holding my own keys. I stood still, frozen between disbelief and anger. The red SUV behind me beeped as I hit the unlock button. But Karen didn't stop yelling. She ran closer, waving her arms like she was the security guard of the entire parking lot. "You people think you can just take anything you want?" she shouted, loud enough for the whole row to hear. A few shoppers started whispering. Some looked at me like I was the thief. My hands were shaking, not from guilt, but from the unfairness. "Ma'am," I said calmly, "this is my car. I bought it 2 years ago." She scoffed, pulling out her phone. "Oh, sure you did. Let's call the cops and see what they say." I sighed, unlocking the car again just to prove my point. The doors clicked open, but Karen stepped right in front of it, blocking me like a guard dog. "You're not going anywhere," she snapped. "I've seen you before. You don't live in our neighborhood. You don't belong there." That line hit harder than it should have. Our neighborhood. She said it like a wall I wasn't supposed to cross. Like property that didn't include people who looked like me. Within minutes, blue and red lights flashed across the asphalt. The real cops arrived, and of course, they went straight to her. She started talking fast, pointing at me, acting scared. She tried to steal my car. I caught her just in time. One officer turned toward me, hand resting near his holster. "Ma'am, can we see your ID?" I took a slow breath. "Sure," I said, opening my purse carefully. "And you might want to see the registration too, it's got my name on it." Karen folded her arms, smirking. "Fake papers don't count." That's when I looked her dead in the eye and said quietly, "You sure you want to do this?" She blinked, confused. The officers glanced at each other. The tension in the air felt like it could break glass. Because what Karen didn't know was that this wasn't just my car. It was registered to a company under my name. The same company that managed half the HOA properties in her neighborhood. And she had just picked the wrong woman to humiliate in public. The cop stood between us, one hand on his radio, the other signaling for calm. Karen kept going, her voice trembling with fake fear. "She's dangerous. I've seen her sneaking around the community center, she's probably casing houses." I almost laughed. "You mean when I was inspecting the security cameras your HOA hired me to install?" I said, still calm, still steady. That hit her like a slap. Her face froze for half a second, then she doubled down. No. She's lying. She's scamming you." One of the officers walked to my car window, checking the registration. Karen," he said carefully, "this vehicle's registered to Lena Carter." "That's me," I said, smiling faintly. Karen's jaw dropped. No, that's impossible. She can't afford a car like that." The crowd gasped. Someone recorded that part. I could tell by the soft, "Oh my God," coming from a teenager behind me. I took a slow step toward her. "You've been leaving fake HOA violation notices on my house, right? Unapproved vehicle, wrong fence color, all that." Karen blinked fast. I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, you do," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. "Because I have footage. You put one on my door last week at 2:13 a.m. Wearing pajamas and slippers." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The officers exchanged looks. Then, one of them spoke. "Ma'am, is that true?" Karen stuttered. "I was just, making sure the neighborhood followed the rules. Someone has to." I stared at her for a long moment. Then said quietly, "Funny thing about rules, Karen. They apply to everyone. Not just the people you approve of." The officer sighed and stepped aside. "Miss Carter, you're free to go. Sorry for the inconvenience." I nodded, sliding into my car. But before closing the door, I looked up at Karen one last time and said, "You should probably check who actually owns your HOA. before you embarrass yourself again. The car engine purred to life. Karen's face turned red as the truth started to sink in. But that was just the beginning. Because the next morning, every resident in her neighborhood received a letter with my company's logo printed at the top, announcing a new management audit. And guess whose name was on the list for review? By the next afternoon, the whole neighborhood was buzzing. Karen's front yard looked like a circus, neighbors standing on their lawns whispering, others pretending to water plants just to eavesdrop. She stormed out of her house, holding the audit letter like it was a threat. "This is ridiculous," she shouted, waving it at her husband. "They can't review me. I'm the HOA president." Her husband sighed. Not anymore, apparently. Meanwhile, I sat in my office downtown, sipping my coffee and scrolling through the footage my team had sent me. Every file was clean and labeled, videos of Karen sneaking into people's yards, slipping fake violation letters under doors, and even yelling at a mailman for parking too long. The woman was practically running her own dictatorship inside a gated community. "Ready to release the audit findings, Ms. Carter?" my assistant asked, peeking through the door. "Not yet," I said. "Let's give her one more chance to explain herself." So, I drove there that evening. The sun was setting, washing the street in gold. Karen was outside again, pacing her driveway, ranting to a few of her neighbors. When she saw me pull up, she froze like a deer in headlights. "You," she snapped. "You set me up. You think you can just humiliate me in front of everyone?" I stepped out of the car calmly. "I didn't have to. You did that all by yourself." She stormed closer, shaking the letter. "You're not auditing me. I've run this neighborhood for 6 years." I tilted my head. "You've abused it for 6 years." Her voice cracked with anger. "You're not taking my position. I built this place." "Karen," I said softly, stepping close enough that only she could hear, "you didn't build it. You just bullied the people who live in it." For a second, I saw it, fear. Not the fake kind she used with the cops, but the real one. "Tomorrow," I added, "the audit begins. Every violation you ever faked, every fine you pocketed, every lie you spread, it's all going public." She tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "You don't have proof." I smiled. "You should really stop assuming what I do and don't have." Then I turned and walked back to my car. As I drove away, her voice echoed faintly behind me, "You'll regret this." But the thing was, I already knew the ending. She didn't. Because the next twist wasn't about her losing her title. It was about what the audit was about to uncover. The following week, the neighborhood looked different, quieter, heavier. Karen hadn't been seen in 2 days, but everyone was talking. Some said she'd gone to stay with her sister. Others whispered that she'd been removed from the HOA board. But the truth was far more shocking. That morning, the audit results were finalized. I walked into the community meeting hall, packed with residents and board members. Cameras flashed. The tension was thick enough to feel. Karen sat near the front, sunglasses on, arms folded, pretending not to care. But I could see her legs shaking under the table. I stood at the podium, holding the report. After a full audit of the HOA's finances and management, I began. We found multiple irregularities, unauthorized fines, missing funds, and false citations. The crowd murmured. Karen's face went pale. One homeowner, I continued, was fined over $2,000 for a mailbox color that never violated any rule. Another was reported for unauthorized landscaping on community property. Karen shot up from her seat. "This is nonsense. Lies. You're twisting everything to make me look bad." I looked at her calmly. "You did that yourself. And the missing $48,000. From the HOA account, who twisted that?" Gasps filled the room. Her husband buried his face in his hands. I set the final page on the podium. "All evidence has been sent to the county office. The HOA will now be placed under temporary management. And all residents will receive refunds for the false fines." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Security approached quietly, and one officer leaned down to speak to her. She froze, her hands trembling, as they escorted her toward the exit. The same kind of walk she had tried to force me into just days earlier. Justice has a funny way of balancing itself. As she passed me, she whispered, "You ruined me." I met her eyes. "No, Karen. You did that when you forgot what power is supposed to mean." The room was silent for a long moment after she left. Then, an older man in the front row stood and clapped once. Then again. Soon the whole hall followed. I took a deep breath, letting the noise wash over me. Not because I wanted praise, but because for once, the people who'd been afraid to speak finally had a voice. When I stepped outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in soft orange and gold. I looked at my car, my own car, shining quietly in the driveway where it belonged. And I smiled. Because this wasn't just about a car. Or an HOA. It was about something bigger, the right to stand your ground. To not be silenced. And to remind people like Karen that respect isn't granted by title. It's earned by character. I started the engine, glanced back at the neighborhood one last time. And said under my breath, I didn't fight to own property. I fought to own peace. The car rolled forward slowly as the evening light faded behind me. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt right.